From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with RJ Broadhead.
Welcome to Ticats Today. I'm the voice of the Ticats, RJ Broadhead. Louie Butko is on holidays? What are those? Holidays. I'll be hosting the rest of the week. Louie's getting some well-deserved time off, and it's a bye week, so the players and coaches are off physically, not necessarily mentally. It's been a tough go as far as the record at 3-9, and they'll be trying to fix that in the final third of the season. But there aren't going to be any interviews. Usually on Ticats Today, you get the scrums, you hear from Coach O, you hear from the players, but we won't have that this week. But we've got some great guests lined up for the rest of the week who don't normally get the airtime, but absolutely deserve it. Drew Stroshine, he's the equipment manager of the Tiger Cats. We'll speak with him tomorrow. That's Thursday on Ticats Today. And hey, if you know about sports, the equipment manager knows everything. I don't know if he's going to tell me everything or tell us everything, but we'll see if we can get some good stories out of Drew. And then Friday, my friend Jeff Girardat will join me on Ticats Today. He's one of the top sports producers in the TV industry, but his roots are in statistics, and I recruited him to do in-game stats for Luke and I on the Ticats Audio Network. He does a great job. I talked to him earlier today, and he has some fantastic statistics that we'll look at for the Tiger Cats through the first two-thirds of the season. Today is Wednesday, September the 7th, and if you're watching on one of the many platforms that the Ticats Audio Network is on, you've seen his face waiting patiently as I get through this preamble, and if you're listening, you had no idea he was waiting. But Brandon Trettor, the manager of communications and media relations. Brandon, great to have you on Ticats Today. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. Great to make my debut.
How many interviews do you do in a year?
Oh, a lot. Let's just say that. I don't have the exact number. I try and track them, but I haven't gone through and counted them all up. But it's significant.
Well, I don't feel special anymore. I thought you were going to say this is it.
Oh, you know what? I messed that up. I was thinking you meant how many interviews do I set up every year. This would be my first interview. So you are special. This is definitely my first one of the season.
Right on. Well, it's good to have you on Ticats Today. Yeah, I know you're constantly setting up interviews. Do you listen? Do you listen to all the interviews just to make sure you know what's being said?
Yeah, I listen to everything. I read everything. Just try and make sure nobody's getting out of hand, getting out of line. So, yeah, definitely have my finger on the pulse of everything.
Well, that's part of the job. However, in this interview, if you say something you shouldn't, who do you answer to?
That's a good question. Probably depending on what I say. It could be Coach O. It could be Dave Cadeau. It could be any number of people calling me up.
They're both fantastic. Dave and Coach O, it's a bye week. Who knows? Well, I'm pretty sure Coach O's working, but I'm pretty sure Dave isn't. We'll see if he's listening. I'll get a text later. Yeah. So when you look at your job, Brandon, here you are, a professional sports team in North America. You're the manager of communications and media relations. I don't know if you've stepped back to realize how few jobs like that there are. It's a terrific position to be in. So why don't you take us through your career path to get here?
Yeah, so I started off, I went to Humber College for journalism. I did a 4-year degree there. And I always just kind of wanted to get into sports media. That was my dream. That's what I was aiming for, right? And I had the opportunity I guess it was my third year in 2019 to do an internship here. And it just kind of grew from there, right? So I interned all through the 19 season, got to see Ticats make the Grey Cup appearance, Forge FC win the inaugural North Star Shield. And then obviously there was no season in 2020. And then I came back in 2021 kind of in a similar role, just as a full-time employee. And it's just kept going from there. So, yeah, here we are.
Are you the good luck charm?
I honestly, I bring this up a lot, but I went my whole internship and into like 6 weeks into last year, whenever we lost our first home game last year, I hadn't been in the building for our Tiger Cats loss.
Wow.
So, I think we lost in overtime to Montreal here.
Yeah,
that was my first. So 2 calendar years between losses.
Eugene Lewis on third down. I remember that game very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this year, obviously, it's a little more interesting. 3-9 record for the team, but still, a third of the season, 6 games remaining, and anything could happen in that East Division. So it's still very exciting. Take us. So you mentioned 2019, 2021, and now this year. So last season was a very interesting one with COVID. How difficult was that to maneuver last season, and maybe can you compare it a bit to this year being maybe easier?
Yeah, so in all 3 seasons, things have been very different, right? So obviously in 19, things were, I guess, the old normal, what things used to be. There was open locker room for media. There was it was just we could do anything. There were no restrictions, right? Because obviously COVID hadn't happened. And then in 2021, everything was Zoom. There was no open locker room. There was no anything like that. The players were isolated in a bubble. They couldn't really go out and do anything. So everything we had to do was over Zoom. And I think there's benefits to Zoom and there's takeaways from Zoom, right? Like there's best thing about a Zoom is anybody can join from anywhere in the world. And I think that it's really opened up opportunities to cover the CFL, but you just don't, from the media side, you just don't get the access that you're looking for. So now we're kind of in a spot where we're doing hybrid stuff. So some of the stuff we do on Zoom, we focus primarily now on in-person stuff, but you just kind of have the best of both worlds now. There's definitely some differences, but some good things we've taken from the Zoom era for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say, Ticats fans, it's time to ride on our strength from now until October 13th. Purchase 4 eligible Hercules passenger or light truck tires to receive a $100 Ticats rewards card and be entered to win our road trip sweepstakes, available at participating active Green and Ross Ontario locations, or visit HerculesTires.com/AGR rewards. And our guest on Ticats today is Brandon Trettor, the manager of communications and media relations for the Tiger Cats. I'm RJ Broadhead, the voice of the Ticats, having a great chat here, Brandon. So, a game day. Take us through your role and how early you have to get to the stadium. Basically, your game day routine.
Yeah. So for home games, I like to get here early. I like to get here. I would say probably 7-8 hours before the game time. Around then, maybe even a little bit more than that, just to give myself time. If there's anything I need to do, if anything comes up, I like to, have a nice little buffer there. It's also when I get to do all of my printing. I know if you've been up in the press box, there's tons of paper that gets printed, and it's the nice thing is there's no coaches in our office, so I have free reign over the printer. So that's when I get that out of the way. And then in terms of during the game or even pregame, there's sometimes we have to coordinate interviews. So TSN usually asks for a guy after warm-up. They get that interview. There's halftime interviews, so I'm the one setting that up with the player and bringing them over to Shinetti most of the time. And then post-game, obviously, there's post-game media that has to be run. So that's kind of where it goes. And everything in between that, I'm on the sideline sharing the Ticats on.
And I know you're on your phone because we get some injury updates up in the booth, and those are crucial for us because a lot of times we don't know if there's an injury or a performance related. So I want to say thank you. That is very, very helpful.
Oh, no problem. Just doing what I can do to help.
So, Brandon, I know the question I ask you most is about pronunciations of players, and we have some good discussions on that. And probably sometimes you think, why is he even asking about this name? But there's always a reason, and I'm very particular about getting players' names correct. So I know that's the question I ask you the most. What is the question that media members ask you the most?
Often it's about injuries. That's usually the main one.
And how much can you say about that?
Almost nothing. Nothing that Coach O hasn't said is kind of my default.
Yes.
But that's definitely the main one, especially with some of this scenarios we've had this year. That comes up a lot. So,
well, speaking of Coach O, and here's where you can keep yourself out of trouble. How do you like working with Coach O?
Coach O is great. He honestly, what you see is what you get with him. That's who he is. The big personality, just a nice human being is who Coach O is, right? And he always takes the time. Anytime anybody says hi to him, he's stopping, he's talking to them, whether that's a fan, an employee. That's just who he is. One thing that I always notice with him whenever we're walking off the field to do media, he's always takes him an extra couple minutes to get there because he's picking garbage up like off the ground on the field. He gets down and picks up garbage and throws it out. It's just the way what you see with him is what you get, right?
Yeah, that's Coach O. He's so classy and leads by example. A lot of the players over my couple of years with the Tiger Cats have started saying some of the things that Coach O always preaches. I know he's been great with me, and before games he'll sometimes give me some slightly inside information. Maybe he's testing to see if that information gets out before the game, which it hasn't, and it won't. But it certainly helps me doing play-by-play when I kind of expect something's going to come. But that's part of a trust. He's been fantastic to deal with, and I have to be honest. Some of his motivational things he says, I've taken away from my career and just used in my personal life. He's just such a positive guy. So it must be great to be around him.
Yeah, the one thing that a lot of people bring this up, just simple things like great, not good is one of his big things. We never say good, we say great. Every morning you walk in, you see him, he says great morning. And that's just little things like that. Always, I don't know what it is, just little things like that. It all trickles down throughout the organization, right? So another one is get to, not have to. You never have to do something, you get to do something. Those are two of his big things, and it sounds small, but that's just such a good way to set just the tone and the mood for the way things are here.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the stop and smell the roses line. Realize where you're at, and most of the time you'll realize you're in a pretty lucky spot. So yeah, your Coach O has been fantastic. How much do you coach the players when they're speaking to the media? And this has been honestly, an interesting year.
Not a ton. If there's something specific, I'll bring it up to them. If there's certain things like just, I don't know, like for example, if there's a starting quarterback thing and O has not said who the starting quarterback is, the last thing I want is the next guy to go in there and say, oh yeah, we know Dane's starting this week or Matt's starting this week, right? So just certain things like that. But honestly, most of them, it honestly kind of amazes me how comfortable they are up there when they get up there. Like there's very few guys that we have that get up there and don't want to do media. And it's just, I don't know if that's from playing college football, if it's just how they are. It's just a lot of them are very comfortable up there. So there's not a whole lot that I have to do in terms of getting them more comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah, and I've been in the business for a while, over 25 years, and I have definitely seen, even from younger players in different sports, they're comfortable. And maybe it has something to do with everybody's got a camera on their phone and social media, and everybody's on camera all the time, so it's not as awkward when somebody puts a camera in your face and asks a question. But the Tiger Cats players have been great to deal with, and there's been some tough questions at times. I still think things are going to work out as this season progresses. Maybe it's a good time for a bye week. What's a bye week like for you? I know from the background, Brandon, that you're at the Tim Hortons field right now, so this is not a day off for you. What's going on in your bye week here?
Yeah, bye weeks, I just like to use them to maybe just get stuff done, get ahead of things, and catch up on stuff because there's so much going on during a game week, right, that it's almost hard to stay on top of things. But you just try and get whatever little things you can do, get them done now, because I know something's going to come up next week leading into Winnipeg, and I'm not going to have time to get everything done, right? So you just try and get ahead of everything. Obviously, I am in the office right now. I'll try and take a day off here if I can. But yeah, it's a bit of a nice break, but also I just miss game weeks, right? Because that's why we do this, just for the games. Yeah,
you talked about your game day. What's a normal week like? Say a practice day.
Yeah, so typically we would do 3 practices and a walkthrough every week. Sometimes there's a fourth practice, but it's if it's a home game, a lot of the week is getting set up for the game. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that, from getting credentials ready, getting stuff ready in the press box, all sorts of things, getting
RJ's parking pass ready.
Oh yes, that's the top of my list every week, is making sure RJ has a nice spot to park, nice and close. But yeah, so then every time we do practice, we have to do media. So there's every day we're here, we're doing media, and lots of times it's crazy. Like I'll get through I'll look down at my phone and it's 1:30 and I haven't sat down at my desk yet. Lots of times I get in there and just drop my bag off and we're going for practice. We're going to get stuff set up in the press box. So a lot of running around during a typical week.
Yeah, it's busy. It's funny. There's one game a week, but you're just as busy as if you were playing 3 or 4 games. And I find that even as play-by-play, you have one game to prepare for, and all of a sudden you realize, oh boy, the game's in tomorrow. Depth charts are out. This is it goes by fast, the week, and it's not always a week in between. But how do you feel? Do you feel this is a good time for a bye week for you, for the team?
Obviously, I think it's things aren't on the field. Things haven't gone our way. But I think obviously you want to go into a bye week with a win, but maybe this is just a good way to reset things, come back. Obviously, everything is still in front of us. I think we're a game and a half out of hosting a playoff game. So
yeah,
everything is still there. Just got to focus on the next one, right? That's just kind of the Coach O mentality, to borrow another phrase from him. The most important game is the next one.
Yeah. And I think you raise a really good point there with, a 3-9 record. A lot of times that would be it. You'd know right now with 6 games to go, you're probably not making the playoffs. However, the East Division has been close and it's still there. So it's going to be exciting and entertaining. And I know some fans are frustrated because, hey, who doesn't want to win every game? But the bottom line is getting into the playoffs, and then anything can happen. So that's still definitely realistic. And I'm not going to make you comment too much on the team. We're with Brandon Trettor, the manager of communications and media relations for the Tiger Cats. I'm RJ Broadhead. This is Ticats Today. It's a bye week for the Tiger Cats, so we're trying to talk to some people who don't normally get interviewed, and this might be Brandon's only interview this year. We'll see. Maybe next bye week I'll bring you on again, and we'll everybody might be asking for more Brandon Trettor. So, when you look at your job, what is the most difficult thing for you?
Ooh.
Yeah, I sneaked this one in on you.
Yeah. The most difficult thing. Trying not to get in trouble here too.
Maybe some of the paperwork.
Yeah, the paperwork can be. There's some things that come up that obviously it's pro sports, right? So things don't always happen regimented, right? Like the one thing I always find is this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you have time, get stuff done, because next thing you know, like I went my whole career here until this year without having a single trade made, and we've made like 4 trades this season, right? So those things just come out of nowhere. So if you don't get stuff done when you have it, you never know. You might have a trade on your hands, and then that bumps things back. And that just the unpredictable nature of it, I could say is a part of a challenge for sure.
Yeah, and listening to some of the callers post game, they want probably 8 more trades made.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm thankful I don't have to take those calls right now. But
yes, yeah, that could be a bit of a challenge. And with your job, you're kind of on call, aren't you? Because if a trade does come down, whether it be a bye week or you have dinner plans, you've kind of got to be there.
Yep, that's it's definitely one of the things that's kind of key to this business is you're on call 24/7, no matter what. Like sometimes we're announcing stuff. I remember last year we announced something. I believe we announced our coaching staff and our new front office alignment on Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day we announced it. So there's no days off in this business. Anything can happen at any time, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, right? Like you got to keep things in perspective. There's a lot worse things you could be doing.
For sure. I think it was Christmas Eve because I remember that, and I think I texted Coach O and never got a text back, and I was okay with that because it was Christmas Eve. I figured he was fairly busy.
Yes.
Okay, so your good luck around the team. Do you feel it percolating here for the final 6 games?
Oh, absolutely. I think, like I said, everything's still in front of us. We got some big games coming up. We got Montreal. Obviously, Winnipeg's the next game, so that's the most important game. We go to Montreal after that, and then we've got 2 with Ottawa at the end of the season. So, you never really know where things are going to land. So, and everything's all there for us. So just got to go out and do it.
Well, Brandon, it's always great chatting to you when I see you at the stadium or on the phone, but this was fantastic. Thanks so much for taking a little time out in your bye week to join us on Ticats Today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
That's Brandon Trettor, the manager of communications and media relations for the Tiger Cats. The Tiger Cats have lost 3 in a row entering the bye week, 3-9 on the season, a third of the season left. That's 6 games, 3 at home, 3 on the road. And as Brandon mentioned, the next game is a week from Saturday. That's September 17th against Winnipeg. Let's fill Tim Hortons Field. There would be no better way to get the ball rolling than to defeat the 2-time defending champs and have a great final 6 games. Coming up on Ticats Today tomorrow, we'll have Drew Stroshine, the equipment manager. Jeff Girodad, our statistician, will join me on Friday. That is Ticats Today. Thank you so much for listening, and we will chat with you tomorrow.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.